All right, Matt is here, ready for divisional preview number 6. Matt, after this one, we are 75% of the way done. This is dropping on Friday, August 15th, meaning that we are officially just under 3 weeks away from the beginning of the NFL season.
Yep.
Matt, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How about you?
I'm good. Trying to recover from Tuesday's pod, where I picked the Atlanta Falcons to win the NFC South. A horrific feat that many people would say cannot be topped. To which I say, hold my beer. Because it's time to talk about the AFC South, starting with my biggest storyline. Can anyone take this division away from the Houston Texans? I am all the way out on the Texans this year. It was one of my, before I start doing any research, I have these guiding principles that I believe in. And one of them this year is that the Houston Texans will be bad. It all goes back to their offensive line. CJ Stroud led the league in pressure percentage last year. He was pressured on 28% of his dropbacks, meaning that one of every 4 dropbacks, he had pressure in his face. That number went up to 36.3% for 2 playoff games, meaning that 1 in every 3 dropbacks, he faced pressure. Notably, Patrick Mahomes' pressure rate in the Super Bowl was 38%. Think back to the Super Bowl and think about how bad that was. That's what CJ Stroud had to deal with every game. You take that offensive line, clearly the worst offensive line in the entire NFL, and trade away the best guy on it, Laramie Tunsil, to the Washington Commanders for picks. And what do you do with those picks? You invest them in young offensive linemen, right? Wrong.
Nah.
Wrong. That's not what the Houston Texans did. They took wide receivers and running backs. And they said, we'll get Cam Robinson. We'll get Trent Brown. That'll be fine. Except Trent Brown played 3 games last year before he got hurt, and Cam Robinson was ranked 53rd out of 81 qualified tackles in PFF grade. You might say, but Adam, only 64 tackles start in the NFL. And he's 53rd? Yes. Yes, he's bad. And they're like, you know what else will help? Let's get Laken Tomlinson, who was 44th out of 77 guards last season. They took the worst offensive line in the NFL, one of the worst that we've seen in quite some time, and made it worse.
In fairness, they also traded away the worst piece on the offensive line. So no more Kenyon Green.
This is true. But you know that he's going to go to Philly and be great.
He's going to be incredible.
He's going to be awesome. This is what happens in Philly.
It's going to make Mekhi Becton look like a little bitch.
So I came into the season and I was like, I am not picking Houston to make the playoffs this year. Little hot takey, but we got to have between 4 and 7 teams that flip out of the playoffs to make room for new teams. I was like, I'm not taking them. And then I looked at the other 3 teams in this division. And I said, God damn it, I have to pick Houston to make the playoffs because I don't know how we trust any of these teams. The Titans, the Colts, and the Jags. I am not confident in the ability of any of those teams to even be competent this season, much less win the division. So as much as I don't want to pick Houston to win this division, I feel kind of stuck. It's very, very hard for me to picture someone else winning. And I'm not saying I'm picking Houston because, as we alluded to, I'm going to do something horrific at the end of this podcast. It's foreshadowing. But I don't know how you feel confident as a fan of any of these teams this year. I hate this division. They won 25 games last year, which was the lowest amount in the NFL, and they could possibly win fewer games this season. Houston won this division last year at 10-7 with a 0-point differential. 0.
Yeah. I mean, it just they weren't a team that I felt good about how they got to the wins they got last year. And then their process this offseason really, really did not address the concerns that I thought they had. But again, to your point, like, are any of these toddlers going to grow up to actually be an adult? Because like that's what it's going to take for someone to win this division.
It's very hard to imagine one of these teams being good.
Yeah.
Like I sight unseen right now, I will pick against whoever wins this division in the first round of the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely.
Unless they play what team,
The Chargers.
I almost called you Maddox. Yes. Unless they play the Chargers. Because
that's what you get for naming him after me.
Yeah. I stand by that decision. Marley doesn't know that his birth certificate says Mattox. Actually Maddox. We're picking solely based on memes. Solely based on memes.
Yes.
This season.
Memes before logic, always.
Biggest regret last season was not picking against the Chargers when the entire season we said Chargers going to charge.
Yeah.
Ugh. What is your biggest narrative for the AFC South?
There is not one single starting quarterback in this division that doesn't have something to prove. The obvious Cam Ward, rookie, right? Like you got to prove that you're good, right? You got to arrive to the stage and actually perform. Trevor Lawrence, will you ever be anything other than the most highly paid bust quarterback? That's what you are right now. Anthony Richardson. Yeah, it's been pretty rough. He's had his really high spikes on individual plays, but yeah, he still has yet to show that he can do the simple, the easy things as a quarterback in the NFL. And like until he does that, like this team's not going anywhere.
Ask you a question.
Yeah.
Is Anthony Richardson the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts?
I mean, if you are choosing to go with Daniel Jones, you are saying that we are not going to try to win.
Daniel Jones is currently listed as the starter on the Colts depth chart.
Yeah, I just believe that.
Throwing it out there.
Yep, but Daniel
I think that proves
is...
it proves your point though. Yeah. On Richardson is like you were just drafted 4th overall not that long ago, and
yeah,
you're not even listed as the starter right now.
And Daniel Jones is historically and notably, like it's everyone knows he's a terrible decision maker. It's not the talent. It's not the accuracy. He's actually a fairly accurate quarterback. Like,
but it's also the talent. It's also the talent.
Well, it's the talent up here.
Yeah.
Up in the head. Right?
People don't talk enough about head talent.
Yeah.
Everybody's obsessed with arm talent. Throwing the football.
And finally, and this is the one where people might get up in arms with me a little bit, but CJ Stroud. Cool, you had a great rookie year. And yes, Adam, you just talked about how bad the offensive line was last year. Doesn't matter if the offensive line is bad this year. If you play like you did last year, that is your story. And no one's going to care that the offensive line was bad because you also like are expected to get better and be able to react to pressure better. And honestly, that was a concern for him coming out too, was like he wasn't super great when he was pressured. So it's just
If you don't like quarterbacks getting pressured, you don't like Houston Texans
you
football.
really don't.
That's both
It's
sides of the
that
ball.
that's their bread and butter, baby.
Both sides of the ball, baby. Quarterbacks getting
Yeah.
pressured. That should be the motto for Houston Texans this season. Is like, you don't like sacks on both sides of the ball, you don't like Houston Texans football. Because that's where we're headed.
Yeah, I see a lot of people in national media just kind of like defaulting back to what they saw out of CJ Stroud as a rookie. And I just think that's a really huge mistake
Yep.
because it denies the idea that someone who's talented can regress. And it also like removes the culpability of the signal caller for some, some of their own pressure, right? Like part of the quarterback position is also like do like developing your ability to call out the protections and all that stuff. And I'm not saying that he should have been like a grizzled veteran in his ability to do that last year, but like I I am willing to bet that if he was better at calling out protections, there might have been less pressures last year. Every single one of these quarterbacks has things that like is kind of raising an eyebrow for me.
To add one thing on Cam Ward before we go to win ranges too. You said he has something to prove because he's a rookie, but
Yeah,
even on top of that, he was kind of drafted first overall by default. It's
by
like
default. Yeah.
he was not the caliber prospect who is like a number one overall draft pick. It was like, you're the best quarterback, so we're going to take you first because we need a quarterback. I think there was a lot of people in Titans land that was like, don't do that, draft Abdul Carter. Instead,
Hmm.
like, get the guy who's actually a first overall worthy prospect, or Travis Hunter, depending on how you felt.
Yeah.
So he's got to kind of prove that he's worthy of the investment they just made in him as well, because people were saying that if he came out last year, he would have been somewhere between like Penix and JJ McCarthy, not, first overall. Like, he wouldn't have been ahead of any of the bigger name guys that came out the year before. He wouldn't be number one in the upcoming
Yeah.
draft class either. So there's a little bit more on his plate, I would say, than a typical rookie who is being handed the keys to the franchise day one.
Absolutely.
Like day
Yeah.
one, they're like, "Hey, this is your team. Here you go."
Yeah. I mean, if Abdul Carter goes out and gets 8 sacks this year as rookie with that many other mouths to feed on that defensive line, and Cam Ward doesn't flash this year 2 is going to be a lot more pressure.
Yeah. Win ranges. The first team is the Houston Texans, which always throws me off. I brought up on this exact episode last year that the Big Ten has like 24 teams in it in college, and that the first one alphabetically is Illinois. And I feel like it's the same thing here where I'm like, okay, which one of these teams goes first alphabetically by city? And it is the Houston. We got to go all the way to H, which is the furthest we have to go for any division in the NFL. I have 6 to 9. I see them probably being in that like 8-9 range, like 7-8-9. I As bad as the offensive line is, and I think it's going to be really horrific, the defense is going to be good. And I think that will buoy them, especially in a bad division where I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm not ready to be like, this team is going to be horrific. They have a lot of talent other places. Like, the receiving core is good. I was talking about how I was kind of pissed off about their draft where they went and spent picks on wide receivers and running backs. I actually like the players they drafted.
Yeah.
I just hate the strategy of like, hey, we got Ariante Ersley. We're going to start him at one tackle, and then we're going to start Cam Robinson at the other, and we're going to get more skill position players. It's very like Bengals-esque to me, where they're like, hey, all sizzle, no steak, baby. Let's go. But at least the defense is good and should be good this year. Might be one of the better ones in the league. So like they probably do finish around 500. But still, to me, that's extremely disappointing for the expectations of this team the last couple of seasons.
Yeah. I think this is probably the one where we differ the most. I have 8 to 12 for them. I With that defense, you could maybe sell me on 7, but I lower than 8 is a bit of a tough sell for me. Um, and I'm not gonna discount the possibility that like we're wrong on some of the stuff with the offense, right? If they figure out if if the offensive line ends up being addition by subtraction, getting all new voices in the room, and it just gets to slightly below league average instead of like bottom 4 offensive lines in the NFL like it was last year, then I can see how this offense could still work. Um, and it is entirely possible that this division just gives them 6 wins.
Yeah. I think this team, I think they could be good if the offensive line could be competent, but
Yeah,
it was 32nd out of 32 offensive lines last year,
yeah,
and I expect it to be worse this season. So that's where we differ. I'm like worried that Stroud's going to get hurt. And then
yeah,
without Stroud, that's why I'm a little bit lower on the floor, but I see where you're
yeah,
at. I see what you're
yeah.
saying.
And I always when I'm making my projections too, like I'm not accounting for injury, right? So like obviously if Stroud gets hurt and misses more than a game or two, then like yeah, my number would be a lot lower.
Yeah.
But um assuming everyone stays healthy, I I
The
I, I expect them to be like 9, 10 wins.
the over under is 9.5 in Vegas. So you're probably right, but
Yeah.
this was like one of my takes coming in, and I'm standing by it. All right, team 2, the Indiana Police Colts. I have 6 to 9 again. Gave him the same range as the Texans. The over under is 7.5. There is a universe where Anthony Richardson hits his potential that we both believe he has. He stays healthy for a whole year. He is
Mhm.
awesome. The offense is good with Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor and Tyler Warren. Unfortunately, that's not the world that we live in, Matt. Daniel Jones, like I said, is listed as the starter. And if Daniel Jones is going to be the starter of this team, I I just kind of expect it to be a repeat of last year, where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to be 7-8 win team, just slightly below 500. There'll be some games where we're like, ooh, Colts. And there'll be other games where we're like, ooh, Colts. Um, Jim Bob Cooter is the OC for this
Yeah.
team. Fun fact, forgot about Jim Bob Cooter. Uh, the one thing that's very interesting to me with the Colts is actually on the other side of the ball. They hired Lou Anarumo as
Hmm.
defensive coordinator. He was fired from the Bengals for things that are not his fault. It was not his fault. The Bengals had not one good player on defense outside of Trey Hendrickson, right? So,
And now refuse to pay said Trey Hendrickson.
yeah. So, can he fix what was a mess in Indianapolis last year? We'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's been a little while since we watched Lou Anarumo defense, and we're like, whoa.
Yeah.
But sometimes a change of scenery can do that. We'll see.
So what's interesting, kind of looking at the way the Colts defense played last year. There was no rush plan, right? There was no like schemed like this is how we're gonna like get to the quarterback. It was entirely on like our guys are gonna go one-on-ones. And their guys on their defensive line did so statistically on above average basis for that. Um, but I have a hard time seeing Lou Anarumo run his defense that way. Um, I think there might be a little bit more depth to what they're doing. I have 7-11 for them. Last year, for the bulk of the season, I think it's fair to say they had the worst, if not the worst, close to the worst quarterback play in the NFL. Um, until like Richardson actually like had a couple of better games towards the end of the year. Um, and they still won 8 games. Outside of the weirdness of the quarterback position, I like this roster. It's actually like got like not a ton of real holes. So if there's not improvement, then I'm expecting them to be about the same team, right?
Yeah,
Probably 7-8 wins. Uh, if there is improvement, then this is probably going to give it away. This is the one team that I think has a shot at taking it away from the Texans.
it's funny because I feel like a lot of these, like the ones we've disagreed on this season, this is going to be another one where it's like, yeah, they win 8 games.
Yep,
And we're just both right.
we're both right.
But
Yeah,
that's kind of where I see them too, is like right
yeah.
around 500.
Hmm.
And I was told last week I need to reel in some of my win ranges. I was told that 7-12 is not a real prediction. So I'm tightening them up, Dad. Tightening up the win ranges. It's
You're
because
pulling on me.
he's probably right. Well, I started adding up how many games my win range is covered versus yours, and I was like,
Yeah, I was intentional about tightening it up a little bit this
yeah,
year.
I was like, I'm pulling the strings on the corset,
But
the second
like,
half of the preview pods.
but the teams that I did that to last year, I did it like intentionally because it was like the Dolphins, right? It's like
Well, this is
we
what
we know we know why they're high variance.
I explained is that the purpose of the win range is to say like if everything goes right, what's the most games they can win? If everything goes wrong, what's the least games they can win? It's not necessarily predictive, but now we're
Yeah,
using it predictively. So
yeah.
anyway, team 3, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Funny enough, same over under as the Indianapolis Colts, 7.5. I have 6 to 10 wins for the Jacksonville Jags. And I know you're not super high on them, but let me sell you on the Jacksonville Jags for this season. They're no longer coached by Doug Peterson.
Can I interest you
That's the
in a
pitch. That's
in
the
a
pitch.
6-9? That's what I have. And I would probably have them lower if they were still coached by Doug Peterson.
I just want to
But
say the last 2 coaches that Trevor Lawrence has had,
yeah,
Urban Meyer, Doug Peterson. Liam Cohen, I think, is a massive question mark, especially with like how he left Tampa and came here, where he's like,
hmm
no, he's like, I'm gonna take the job. And they're like, sweet. And he's like, I don't want it. And they're like, we'll give you more money. And he's like, okay, I'll take it. And they're like, sweet. And he's like, nah, I don't want it. And they're like, we'll give you more money. And he's like, okay, if I have to. Twist my arm. Why don't you? It's very reminiscent of the Myles Garrett situation. Where
Well, you're leaving out the best part. where the Bucks were, trying to get a hold of him and they couldn't. And but this was also after he had told them that he was going to take care of his sick son, and that during that time he was in fact not with his sick son. He was in Jacksonville signing a contract or negotiating a contract.
So a question mark to be sure,
Yeah.
especially because like you want your head coach to be the culture setting guy.
Yeah.
But can I sell you on Liam Cohen?
Yeah. So what let me ask you this first before you do that. Everything that all that behavior that we just discussed there, does that sound like the person that you want making the decisions for your team in a high leverage situation?
Actually, yes. Because if he's like, I care more about this football team than I care about my sick son, that I don't want him to parent my kids. But, leading my football team, he's committed. He's committed. But can I sell you on Liam Cohen as a coach?
You can try. I don't think it's possible.
He's not Doug Peterson. Hmm? Hmm? He's not Doug Peterson. Like, in all seriousness, I do think he's a major question mark. The character is like very, very concerning.
The character makes me think of Pete's Peterson's predecessor a little bit.
Yeah. To make it even more questionable, he has never been a head coach at any level of football.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, you're our coach. But elite scheme in Tampa last year, fourth in points, third in yards as the offensive coordinator there. And I'm very, very interested to see how this BTJ Travis Hunter thing looks offensively.
Mm-hmm.
There are some who believe that Travis Hunter is a receiving prospect on the level of Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. I wouldn't go that far, but I think he can be a very good NFL receiver, especially playing across from Brian Thomas Jr., who was absolutely incredible last season as a rookie. Like, I think there is potential for this to be the best receiver duo in the league within the next 3 years, depending on how good Travis Hunter is offensively. And we all obviously got to see what happens with him playing offense, playing defense. Like, he's going to be all over the place. But this is really like for Trevor Lawrence. Like, you already said it in your biggest narrative, but if you can't win with this,
yeah,
and be good with like good statistically and by eye test with what you have now, with what we've seen BTJ can be and what we think Travis Hunter can be, then I never want to hear it again.
Yeah.
This is it. This is last chance. I was like, I don't want to hear it again anymore after last season. And then I went back to the fact that he's been coached by Urban Meyer and Doug Peterson. And I was like, okay, one more chance. Trevor Lawrence, one more. But we're pretty close on win range there, actually. I expected you to be lower. Last team, the Tennessee Titans. I have 4-6. Over unders 5.5, so I'm kind of right there. This is one of the least talented rosters in the NFL. And like we said, they're going to start Cam Ward day one, who I kind of like, I'm starting to have this feeling that Cam Ward might actually be a good NFL quarterback eventually, but I don't know that it's right now, right? Like, he needs time to develop, but like, man, he's going to get thrown into
He's getting thrown into the wolves.
The fire. Yeah, like immediately. And I hope that he can kind of navigate that, because it goes one of two ways, man. It either makes you stronger or it washes you out of this league. And there's pretty much no in between. So,
yeah, I have 4-7. 7 maybe feels a little high, but if he's that dude, then I think it's possible.
Yeah. The defensive line is real nasty. The rotation of their
Yeah.
three defensive tackles, they're a tough team to run on,
Yeah.
So they got like, we talked about the Saints in the last episode and how there's just nothing going for them. At least with
Yeah.
Tennessee, it's like you got something to hang your hat on. Bold predictions for the AFC South. This is one of my favorite ones. Whoever wins this division will win it with a losing record or 8-1. I'm throwing the 8-1 in there because I feel like a lot of our bold predictions were like last year you predicted that Deshaun Watson would get benched.
Yeah.
And he was the worst quarterback in the league, and they're just like, we're not benching him. So like you were technically correct. But
I mean, I didn't say by who.
That's true.
God benched him.
God stepped in. But I'm throwing in 8-1 because I just feel like that's what would happen to make me not hit this bold. So I think it's either going to be a record of 8-9 or 8-1. And that's going to win this division.
That is certainly a prediction.
I put 3 teams in that range.
And it'll be the Titans.
At 8-1.
Yeah.
No, you know what? It's going to be the Titans at 8-7-2. I'm like, okay, come on.
Incredible. Hell yes. Inject that into my veins.
Phenomenal shit. This will be the podcast we do at the very end of the season where we say, here's what we got right and here's what we got wrong. When the Titans are 8-7-2 and win this division, I'm coming right back to this moment and saying, see, I told you it was going to happen. What is your bold prediction?
So we talked about how nasty that Houston defense is shaping up to be. It was pretty nasty last year. And I think too, in a year where the offense might not fully carry its weight, again, potentially, I can see D'Amico Ryans really working his magic on like the defensive side to like, this is how we're going to win games, right? Like we're really pushing the envelope on turnovers. So that secondary that they have, you can argue maybe it's Houston, maybe it's Denver. Those are the only 2 contenders for best secondary in the NFL. But with how much pressure they're going to create, I am predicting that Houston will have at least 4 different players that have at least 3 interceptions by season's end. Just feel like there's going to be a lot of tipped balls. I think Stingley's going to do what Stingley does, It's how this team is going to have to win games, I think, is, all right, we know the offense isn't very good, but what if we just keep giving them the ball?
It's fair. It's fair. Like, one way to make your offense better is put them in good positions. Right? And then you get sacked. Yeah. You get sacked right out of it. Oh God, division winner picks. Oh, I know what I have to do. I don't
know if I'm strong enough to do it.
I don't know if I have the mental fortitude to actually do this, but
same.
I'm going to pick the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know. I picked the Atlanta Falcons on Tuesday's pod. I'm going to take the Jags here. I do not feel good about it. I don't, but I just don't believe in the Texans this year.
Yeah.
I just don't. And I had to pick somebody else. And I'm like, I don't like any of the options. I hate this division. I think this division is going to be worse this year than they were last year. I think the team that wins it's going to have a losing record. Yeah. Houston's defense is my favorite thing in this division. My second favorite thing is the BTJ Travis Hunter combo. And I'm just going to rely on Travis Hunter to have a big season on both sides of the ball. Take us home here. Who do you have winning?
I guess I'll pull I'm gonna go with Indy. I just I, I'm I'm with you on kind of being out on this Texans team. Um and Indy's actually played them really tough a lot the last few years too. Um and if they can just get anything out of the quarterback position, like this could actually be a fairly good team. Um, so hopefully it's not Daniel Jones.
Can I tell you one thing that we are going to look back on when we're doing the preseason, like when we revisit the preseason predictions, when we do that podcast, that is 100% going to be correct. The Houston Texans are going to shove this podcast so far up our asses that it's going to come out of our mouths. Like they're going to win like 13 games this season and the offensive line is going to be good. And we're going to be like, we are so stupid. But
absolutely,
this is where we're at. And with that said, that is it for us. As always, Fouled Out can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Overcast, anywhere you get your podcast. You can hit us up on Gmail, fouledOutSports@gmail.com, and you can find our videos on TikTok at Fouled Out Sports Podcast. It is a long name, but you can't miss it. 6 down, 2 to go. This is coming out on Friday, the 15th. Matt and I will be back on Tuesday, the 19th with the NFC West, and then Friday, the 22nd with the AFC West. That will wrap up all the division previews. And then we will have 2 weeks until football. So those last 2 weeks, we're going to do the picks pod, where we round out all of our picks. We're going to pick all the wild card teams, the award winners, the Super Bowl winners, all that fun stuff. And then the first week of the NFL season, actually probably the first day of the NFL season, September 4th, we will drop the week 1 preview pod. We'll do like gambling picks for the year, funnest narratives, like all this cool NFL preview stuff. But we're almost there. We're 3 weeks away. I'm very excited to go over the football season with you again, Matt. It's going to be a fun year.
Yeah, I'm excited for week 1 when something matters.
Oh, just give me anything that matters, baby. But all right, buddy, I'll see you soon.